Cheung. Today we have the pleasure of having Dr. Henry Cheung with us today. Henry graduated in his PhD from this university, not from ITLS, like 4 years ago. Now he's a lecturer in the group in the business school at the University of New South Wales, and he's going to talk to us about techniques to deal with sudden situations in public transport systems and how to come up with good solutions for that. So without further ado, thank you very much for coming today on the floor.
Thanks, Andres. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Henry, and this is one of the works that I'm working on in the field of transportation. So later, I work in many different fields. So today, the topic is decision support systems for real-time rescheduling. And so the story here is all the collaborators here are basically from the Chinese University of Hong Kong, and now everyone goes everywhere. But the study is still of this project is still ongoing. Some background about me. So I graduated with the bachelor degrees from the Chinese University of Hong Kong and also a master degree in systems engineering. So from that time, I studied more in transportation. So also from this figure, so you can tell it's generated by AI, okay? And you see some digital things here. So this is the other things that I'm working on, which is so my research interest in cybersecurity and also transportation. But today, the topic will focus more on transportation rather than cybersecurity, okay? All right, so some background about the project. And so can you guess which part of Hong Kong of the picture is? Kowloon, New Territory, Hong Kong Island. So which part do you think?
Kowloon.
Okay, some say Kowloon. Any other opinion?
What's the name of the continent?
Kowloon Island, New Territories, and also Hong Kong Island. There's 3 parts.
New Territories is the continent?
No, yes. So this is a photo, a typical morning peak hours in Hong Kong Island. So you can see there are many trams, buses, and also personal vehicles or trucks that they always occupied in a very crowded area. So I think this should be the Causeway Bay district in the Hong Kong Island. So you can imagine if, let's say, if something happened here, maybe some incidents or some maintenance, then basically the whole thing that here will be blocked. And the problem that we are trying to solve is, so how can we handle any unexpected uncertainty or disruptions that in this public transport system? So from the figure, you can also tell, so if something happened, then there's the many negative impacts that something that will happen, and you will see and can tell from the travel time here. So on the left-hand side is the scatter plot of a typical work days or weekdays that you can see the travel time for one commercial route, like for 400, which is I think it's about 12 at noon. And you see the travel time is always maybe 1 hour. And in some other case, it can be just less than 40 minutes. So this is the typical things that we have seen in the database. And then after we aggregate all the data and then try to find the distribution in each period, then we can see instead they have a very huge variance that in some of the period, like the morning peak hour, the lunchtime, and also the afternoon peak hour. So this always cause the system cannot run to schedule. And speaking of that, then we have some other things that always happen on the system side, which is you expect the trip duration is not regular because you will see the heavy traffic sometimes. And that means the vehicle that deployed in the system cannot run to the so-called predefined schedule. And in other words, that means this will affect the human side, including the drivers and also the passengers. So typical things for the driver is if something lag behind, then the driver may have late new brake delay or may somehow will work overtime too much. And the other side for the passenger, which is because this public transit system is operated governed by the Hong Kong government. So they have to maintain a certain level of passenger service level. So if your vehicles cannot run on schedule, that means you should expect some passenger unsatisfaction, and this will affect the government's some subsidies that to this public transit system. And the last thing is whenever the things happen, so what the company is going to do is typically they rely on some manual adjustment. So they rely on the control room in the company. So they will tell, so something is happening, and then they will give the instruction to the inspectors at the terminal. And these inspectors will inform the motorman or the driver of vehicles that to adjust their schedule in real time. So they always do the things that manually, but nowadays they use our developed decision support system already. So that means the problem here will fall into decision support in disruption management. And our objective, which we are going to do three things, which is the first one is we try to minimize the demand under coverage, which I will explain what is under coverage later after a couple of slides. And the other thing is, of course, we need to take care of our crew welfare. More precisely, is the driver or the motorman. That we shouldn't ask them to work overtime, and also we try to let them have their meal breaks that as planned as possible. And the last thing is, of course, it is a commercial company. They need to make profits, even though they get some subsidy from the government. So in terms of making profits, they try to maximize the commercial distance, which is they try to operate as many as commercial routes to provide the service to passengers. So to do this, we developed the decision support system, which is we try to deal with this multi-objective function set in the model. So speaking of the DSS, which is this is the pictorial illustration. So from the company, they will have a database to capture all the vehicle information, travel time, all the days that in all the commercial routes and many other routes, and also the motorman schedule. So if there's something happen, then they can also capture in the database. So once we process the data, more precisely is the past and present data, and then they will send to an optimization call, which is a mathematical modeling that I will introduce later. And also if there's some accidents or some disruption happen, then the inspector will send this real-time information to the optimization call. And also there are some sensors that installed on the vehicle, so they can check the GPS. That means they can check the location and why this vehicle always stuck there for maybe 10 minutes or 20 minutes. So that means there must be something happened. Yep.
When you say updated schedules, do you mean the work schedules, the drivers, the motormen, or do you mean the schedule that a passenger, like when the vehicle should arrive at the
Good
stop?
question. So the schedule is talking about the motorman schedule, so not the passenger schedule. So far we haven't tackled the passenger side. Yeah.
So it's just like you were supposed to take your break here, but you're taking it here instead.
Yep. Sure. So once we get the real-time information and the aggregated historical data, then we basically will do some optimization and then to see if we are going to adjust the motorman schedule. So if we do so, then we send this schedule. Again, we still need someone more senior in the company to see if this schedule makes sense or not. So once they check the schedule and then they say, okay, so this is something that we can address, and then they will give the instructions to the inspectors that at terminals. And after the inspector receive these instructions, they will distribute all the information set or the updates set to the motorman. Either they're going to sign on at the terminal, or they drive the vehicle approaching the terminal. So they will address this in real time. So with this, yeah, you've already heard about what I've mentioned commercial routes for a couple of times. So what does that mean? So in the route map here, basically is provided by the company, but we just remove the details because we cannot disclose the name of the company. So this is a simplified version. So you see we have 7 terminals and 2 depots. For depots, they also reserve some vehicles for maintenance or other works. And terminals, between terminals, there are many stops that I just hide here because I don't want to give too much details to make this visualization more complicated. And we have 7 commercial routes. Each of them can operate in the eastbound direction or the western or the westbound direction. And also to connect 2 consecutive or 2-week commercial routes, then we will have some deadhead, which is the deadhead is to carry no passenger but connect to commercial routes. And in the model here, we're trying to maximize the usage of the vehicle to operate on as many as commercial routes as possible, because this is the source of the profits. All right, so for the routes, you have already seen we have 7 commercial routes, but the other thing is we still need to meet the target. That means the coverage. So you have heard me about under coverage, and also you may have another guess. So how about over coverage? And the answer is yes. So to introduce some flexibility in the modeling, which is if we only operate, let's say, the so-called standard routes, which is all these are the standard routes. So in some cases, is what something like happened here, and it blocks the whole part, and your train or your vehicle can only arrive terminal 3, cannot go back to terminal 2. Then the motorman driving this vehicle will stuck there forever if the situation doesn't change. So in the case here, we will introduce, maybe we shorten this commercial route so that we have some flexibility to adjust the schedule, and can also let the motorman can get the wheel break or sign off early. And also in some cases, we will extend it, so maybe there's not enough time for the motorman to finish to operate another commercial route, and this motorman must be signed off in some of the depot. Then we will just ask the motorman, okay, so please drive 1 more terminal, and then you can sign off in the nearest depots. Then this will minimize the overtime. So for each route, we have the eastern direction and the western direction, and we also introduce extension, and at the same time, we also have the shorten, which may not make the route shorter. So speaking of the coverage, which is talking about, so for each of the route group here, so the company will negotiate with the government each year. So they will review the operation each year of the operation from the company, and then they will see maybe they will address the number of vehicles deployed in each time period. So for example here, so at 6 a.m. in the morning, they need to deploy 6 vehicles to cover route group 7 that to provide the service. So this is some of the things that has been already done with the government. So this is how we measure the coverage. And this is the some samples of the motorman duty. So by default, we always say the motormen need to sign on and sign off at the same terminal or same depot. Similarly, they will have the meal break at the same depot or terminal. But in some cases, if the motorman, let's say I want to sign on some terminal, but I want to get off or sign off at another terminal, and the answer is yes, they can also do something like this, like the some here. So someone sign on terminal 5 and then sign off at the eastern depot. So this is also acceptable. So we'll get this into consideration when we do the rescheduling. And so this is the sample of just sign off, and there's a detailed one which is a typical working schedule for a particular motorman. So here you can see from the planning, and you can tell is typically a normal day for a motorman is 8.5 hours, including 30 minutes for meal break. So here you can see we have something which is WD to T2, which is from Western Depot to Terminal 2, which is they are going. This is a deadhead, which is they bring the vehicle from Western Depot and go to Terminal 2, and then they start the commercial route from T2 to T7. And another thing is, so here's the question. So why they will change the vehicles? So after route 1W plus, that means extended route, and go back to the Western Depot. So motorman to change vehicle from vehicle 1 to vehicle 2. Any guess why they do this? Maybe. Another guess. So if you own a car, you will always do a service every year, right? So the reason here is because vehicle 1 may be reserved for maintenance after this service in the morning. And there's another thing that the company is doing is instead of just operating vehicles to carry passengers for profits, and I think they will do the advertising by printing the body with some advertisement. So that's why you see in Hong Kong Island or in the buses that also in CBD, we see there's many different advertisements that printed on the body of the buses or something. Then this is another source of profits there for the company. So basically, once they go into if the vehicle is going to terminal, so the system will check if the vehicle is going to reserve for maintenance or reserve for advertising purpose, then they will just ask, okay, so you are going to change to the other vehicle. And the other case is after the meal break, they will also change the vehicle as well. Okay. Another question, what if there are not enough vehicles available for motormen to take at the terminal or depot? So what the motorman will do? Yep, just waiting. So another thing that we are going to deal with is we are trying to minimize the idle time for the motorman. That means they're doing nothing, but they still earn the salary. All right, so the idea of the optimization call is a typical assignment problem, which is for each motorman, we will assign some compatible task sequence. So the task sequence is nothing but just a combination of commercial routes that has wheel brake and also side on side off. So this is the idea is that in the optimization call, which we are going to see to find the optimal task sequence for all the motormen. So for each motorman, if we look ahead 3 hours in the future, then typically they will have hundreds or thousands of possible task sequence for each motorman. And once you get a pair of motormen connected to a task sequence, so typically you can calculate many things. For example, the startup time of the motorman to take the task sequence. And also from the task sequence, because you know you have commercial routes, and then you can estimate the mileage of the task sequence. So this will give the basically this will give the profit to the company. And also you are going to minimize the overtime of the people. So you don't want your employee to work overtime too much. Otherwise there will be some problem. And the meal breaks, which is we try to let the motorman have the scheduled meal break as on time as possible. So typically the motorman will have their meal break after 3.5 hour working, then they will have a break. And then after that, they will continue their work until sign off. And also the idle time that we try to minimize, because if you're idle there, that means you do nothing, but still you can earn a salary, which is the company doesn't want that happen too much. And the other one, the last one is because if you work overtime, the company needs to pay you more. And from a commercial firm, you will see, so I want to maximize my profit and also minimize my costs. So paying overtime is also another large cost to this company. So that's why we have two terms to minimize the overtime. One is the usual overtime, and the other one is the violation of the maximum working hours. So the maximum working hour is the typical 8.5 hours per day, plus maximum 2 hours for working overtime. So if you exceed that, that will be a problem that the government will ask you, so what's going on? Because nowadays crew welfare is one of the key issues that we need to take care of. All right, so some other parameters that we have is we have all the routes, and also from the study in the database, and also from the discussion with the senior staff in the company, we can see some routes that are not that profitable, but still you need to deploy some vehicle to cover that less profitable routes, because you're a public transit company. And that's why the government will provide some subsidy to the public transit company, because you still need to maintain some of the passengers that they have their access to convenience to go from somewhere to some other side in the place. And we also decompose the whole day into different time periods. So here in the model, we set half an hour as one period. So this will also give you the hints that we always do the optimization every half an hour. And the demand here is basically talking about so how many vehicles that we need to deploy to cover which route in one period. And at the end, so if let's say a vehicle deployed in a task sequence, it can cover a particular route in particular period, and we said this is one, a typical binary parameter. All right, so speaking of that, then this is the mathematical models that for the optimization call. So the first thing you can see is this is a multi-objective function. And the idea here is, like I mentioned, so we maximize the profit, which in turn is maximize the mileage. And also minimize the new work delay and also overtime for the crew. That means you try to maximize the crew welfare as well. And at the end, it's minimizing the under coverage and over coverage. The reason here is because the number of vehicles is limited, not infinity. If you, let's say I deploy 100 vehicles to cover route 1, then how about the rest of the 6 routes? You don't have enough vehicles to cover, then basically you have a very lower satisfactory in passenger service. And the first constraint talking about that, so for the less profitable routes, so of course, we try to meet the demand as much as possible, but at the same time, we don't want to deploy too many vehicles for these less profitable routes. So that's why we minimize this over coverage. But for the more profitable routes, we try to deploy as many as vehicles that we can because we know which routes will have more profits than other routes. And the third constraint is just the typical one, which is the typical assignment problem. So each motorman at a certain period of time can only do one certain number of jobs. That means one task sequence. And the rest are the domain for the decision variable. So all of them are non-negative integers. So that means this is a pure integer programming model. And from my experience, so many people that will be struggle is in the first constraint. So just recall, so this is the decision variable that we have, and just have a look at the constraint here. So we're looking at for each terminal and consider all the motormen that will arrive in this terminal within the planning periods. And then for each of these motormen, we will generate a task sequence for them. And after that, so we try to solve this one. So after optimization, so we usually see 2 cases. So either the under coverage is non-negative. That means some positive value here. Either the surplus is positive. So we won't have both of them will be positive. So for example, let's say for the route group A at noon, which is we need to deploy 9 vehicles. So this D will be 9. After optimization, so there are cases that, so maybe we can only cover 7 vehicles. So in other words, we will short for 2 vehicles. So this is what the under coverage means. And similarly, in other cases, I mean, after considering all the constraints and the optimization, they'll give me, the thing is, okay, so I'm going to deploy 12 vehicles for this group 8 at 12 noon. So that means you deploy 3 more vehicles than the targets. So this is what the simulations that can tell us. All right, so speaking of the simulations, so because this is a multi-objective optimization problem, so one of the things that to deal with multi-objective is, of course, we will find the Pareto fronts. That means they will have the same objective value, but different weighting parameters. However, this is not easy in the problem because we have a weighting parameter to set, and all of them are continuous. Which is if you use the Pareto front, which will be a huge headache to everyone. So to set the parameters here, so we talked with the senior staff in the company forth and backward for 3 weeks to come up with 3 different sets of parameters here. And set zero is nothing, but just you use the defined schedule and just ask a simulation. The simulation we use here is Arena. So just ask Arena to run, and then you get all the planned schedule information. And set one, so you see we place more weights on the mileage. That means we place more on profits. And set three, we set it to 0. So that means we will focus more on the crew welfare rather than the profits. And set two, we say is the balanced one. So we try to have the some more profits in mileage, but at the same time, we also take care of the crew welfare, because if the motormen work overtime, you still need to pay more. All right, so with the setting and the parameters here, so what are we going to do next is, of course, we are trying to run some simulations. And for the simulations, we do the optimization for every 30 minutes. And then for each planning period, we look ahead 3 hours. And we use Windows 10, which is the, you already know the update for Windows 10 is gone already. And so far, we still use CPlex version 12 because this is the most stable one. We also try other latest version, but somehow it crashed in Arena. But we still haven't know what happened. All right, so the question here is, how long do you think we need to, sorry, how much time do we need to solve one iteration of the optimization model? So I have 4 options. A, about 20 minutes. B, about 10 minutes. C, between 2 to 5 minutes. And D is less than 1 minute. Okay, different opinion. That's good. So the truth is less than 1 minute. So this is an IP, and then we use CPlex, and the worst case is still less than 1 minute. So this will meet our expectation. That is because this is real-time rescheduling. If your optimization model cannot solve within 10 minutes, that will be meaningless, because after you send out the updated schedules, still you will need to give some time to the controllers and also inspector to review the schedule if it makes sense or not. If not, then you will ask the optimization core to do another optimization and give you the solution. So that's why we have a very harsh requirement from the company that so you have to solve the problem within 5 minutes. Otherwise, there will be optimal solution. Yeah.
How do you check that it's optimal?
So basically, we just once we get the optimal solution, and the controller will check it. So if they see if the solution makes sense, then you send out. If not, they will ask the technicians or the people that in charge of the optimization call to, okay, maybe you need to rerun again or something.
Theoretically, how the CPlex knows that's optimal?
They just check if they achieve the minimum objective function or not. Yeah. Yeah. They just check the objective value. So if the objective value is yeah, it describes optimization.
As the optimal solution by checking every node.
Yeah. So like bench and bound, and then you make it as control if the sorry, what's the term? The variance or the value between upper bound and the lower bound is within, let's say, 1 to power, so 10 to power minus 8. Then this is, we say, is optimal solution. Yeah. So also because CPlex already can be solved, can solve the problem within 1 minute. So that's why we didn't develop any heuristics or algorithms that in this problem, because so far we don't need for this problem. All right, so to verify the feasibility, so we select 12 days from the database, and then on average we have 230 motormen or drivers per each normal day, and we have around 150 vehicles that is available for each day. So once we do the optimization, and then you can see, so we have the maximum mileage that by using the parameter in set one, because set one focuses more on profits. And also the coverage is also above 90%. So the minimum requirements that for the government imposed in the companies, you have to maintain the service level above 90%. So this is their requirement. And also, if you just keep the things running, just following the predefined schedule, no matter what happened on the road, so you see about 8.5 people will exceed this maximum working hours. So here we run the simulation for 10 times and then take the average. So that's why you will see some decimal point here. And the worst case for the maximum working hour is about exceeding 2 hours. So this is just for normal days. So after you do some optimization, so you can easily reduce this maximum working hours violation. All right, so if you look at the average performance, so you can see if you just keep the things running without any optimization, so the meal break delay is controlled within about 10 minutes, okay? But from the discussion, we can say, yeah, so if the meal break is less than half an hour, is still acceptable. So let's say I ask you, or the schedule say you are going to have your lunch at 12, but you actually have the lunch at 12:30, so it's still okay, just half an hour difference. And also the idle time will be reduced because sorry, the two is the rating parameter, which is the set 2 and set 3 here. So, and also the idle time will be reduced, and also early sign off as well. So this is the average performance. So let's look at the poor risk guy. That means the worst case that in the simulation you can tell. So if we don't do any optimization, that means set 0. So you can see some people has their meal after 2.5 an hour in the schedule, but someone just over there doing nothing for 2.5 an hour. So that means you will see someone is starving, but someone is very free. Okay, this doesn't make sense. Another thing is someone work overtime for 3 hours, and someone can go to home 2 hours before. So this is another thing that we noticed that when we run the simulation. So after we do some optimization, so we can just reduce the maximum or the worst case meal break delay to a maximum 1.5 an hour, and also almost half of the overtime and also idle time as well. So this is we use the data from normal day to test the feasibility of the 3 rating set here, and this will just see the thing is so set 1, as by what we have discussed, is they are best for the operation output, which is they will deploy as the maximum or the highest mileage, because in terms of profits, we use mileage to measure the profits, but you will sacrifice the crew well-being. So this is some trade-off. And set 3 is we try to meet our crew's welfare as much as possible. Then at that time, you sacrifice the mileage. So that's why we use that tool to balance or to have some trade-off between profits and crew welfare. And typically the company is now using set2 parameter instead of set1 or set3. So this is the normal days simulation to test the feasibility. What we interested in is what if there's some disruptions. So if there's some disruptions and we just keep using RC simulator to run without any optimization, then you see they will have the largest mileage, right? Because you won't do any optimization to cut some routes or ask someone to sign off early. But the thing here is you will have 30 people that will violate the maximum working hours rule. So if this happened in Sydney, fair trading will talk with the transit company what's going on. But after optimization, so you see you have less mileage, but you have better coverage. So here's my question: why you will have higher mileage but lower coverage, in some case lower mileage but higher coverage? Yep. So the main thing is because we look ahead the things 3 hours, and then we also receive the information from the sensor that there's something happens in some early areas. So that means we may use our flexibilities in shorten or extend some routes. So the simulation here with the results after we check all the things, and it told us that basically they prefer shorter routes than the standard routes. So that's why you see they have less mileage but better coverage in the disrupted days. And also some typical things. So the average is okay. And more precisely, the worst case will be reduced. If we don't do this, then you expect someone will be on that vehicles forever, cannot get off. So once we do the comparison, we basically so whenever there's some disruptions happen, so no matter which rating parameter you use, set1, set2, or set3, they always prefer the shortest routes rather than the standard routes. So that's why you have more coverage but less mileage. And the other things that we take care of is because nowadays we care about the crew welfare very much. So there's another KPI that the company is going to do is we try to minimize the maximum working hours. Sorry, the maximum working hour violation. So if it exceeds certain limits, so the government will just call the company to explain. So this another headache. All right, so we also do some sensitivity analysis. So maybe another question that the company asks is, so what if we do the optimization more frequently and also maybe less frequently? So what will happen? So typically, the result is quite stable. And we just suggest that so basically 30 minutes optimization will be the best, because you don't want to always call the inspectors and the motormen in 10 minutes to tell them, oh, your schedule is revised. And so this will also create some nervous that to the crews that in the terminal and also drivers. But if you do optimization less frequent, then there's another thing that maybe you miss the window that to address the to maybe minimize the overtime or something else. And another thing that we notice is typically in the database, it has, I think it's 5 years data in the database, but if you just look at the disrupted day, I think it's less than 5%. So to make the disruption, so we set the time variance from minus 35% to maximum increase 40%. That means the standard deviation will be plus minus 20%. So if we compare the standard one and also all difference, you will see basically over time will rise with variance. And if you use the balanced one, so the worst case will be cut almost 80%. And they will just take the average between 6 minutes. And for the meal break is the worst case is maximum 100 minutes. But if we don't do any optimization, so the minimum worst case is already above 100. And the robust here is on average is just 30 minutes. And like what we said, set 2 is always try to do the trade-off between crew well-being and also the profits. So that's why you see we sacrifice some profits, but still will maintain the crew well-being. So at the end, so this is some insights that we provide to the company, which is basically you can stick with the set 2, which we call the balanced one. And then they will make use of the well-being, which is we try to meet the compliance set by the government and set the optimization every 30 minutes, not too much and not too less. And also another thing is so maybe after you have more data, then you can also fine-tune the parameters in set 2 and maybe other sets. And yeah, at last, which is so far you have already know. So basically we just have the fixed routes. So but if we don't have any route segment passenger data, so that's why we cannot cut the routes that into different segments. So if we have the data, then I think the problem cannot be solved within 1 minute using C++. So that will ask us to develop more heuristics or algorithm that to solve for some solution rather than optimal solution. I think that's all for the presentation. Thank you. Any? Yep.
It seems like the number of motormen is given already, right? So my question is that given number of motormen already the optimal number?
Well, that's a good question. So indeed the company just told us that on the database they only have each day they have 230 to 250 motormen. It depends on the days that they operate. So if they operate on Wednesday in Hong Kong Island, because on Wednesday in Hong Kong Island they have the racing halls, so that time they will need more motormen. But if not that busy, they will just maintain minimum, which is 230 motormen per day. Yeah.
I'm thinking like, what if the number of men really exceeds?
Okay. So typically in the past day, each day about 8 people exceed the maximum working hours. And that's why it raised a so-called a red flag to the company imposed by the government. So you need to at least to cut this number into half, not too much. Otherwise, there will be some labor compliance issue. Yeah. Yep.
So in the IoT, you are matching drivers with sets of tasks. How do you compute the sets of tasks?
Yeah, so here we use another Java program, which is because we already have the route information. Each route they have the mileage which in kilometer, and also we have the sorry, not this one. The times that aggregate time that we just take the average and then just assume, okay, so for this route, if you run the whole route, it will take some maybe 1 hour or one and a half an hour. Then so basically we just generate the whole sequence from maximum 3 hours. So basically just have some combination, not too much.
Yes.
Yeah. And we also try to exceed the 3-hour limits, but we don't have enough RAM. And it just crashed the program. Yeah.
And I have another question. So about the idle time,
Yep,
isn't the idle time just a sunk cost?
they are.
So why do we want to minimize it?
Because like the simulations that you have seen here, so some people will work overtime and some will just stand there, do nothing. So what we are going to do is we try to minimize the idle time of someone and also minimize the overtime. So just ask that free person to not that free to cover the person that we are going to work overtime.
But the real objective is to minimize the over.
Yep.
Somebody is free
Mm-hmm.
or not free.
Mm-hmm.
That should be a result of minimizing the over.
Yeah.
But why is that an objective per se?
So because to be fair to everyone, so we don't want someone so okay, motorman 1 is working overtime, motorman 10 is idle there, do nothing. Still that person gain the money, but I don't. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Just a short question. Do you consider part-time motormen also?
So far we don't. But if you look at the schedule, they will have decomposed it into different shifts. So if they can cut the shift into maybe 4 hours, then yeah, they will have some part-time motorman. Yeah.
Go to slide 14, please.
Oh, this one.
Just a quick question. I just don't understand what your motorman number 4 is doing here because it's not tasked.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's just some dots here. So there are many task sequence below. So I just yeah omitted because of the scope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other question was that if you're updating your tasks and schedules every 30 minutes,
Mhm.
why do we need to plan them for 3 hours ahead?
So if you don't plan for more than 2 hours, or let's say we just plan for 1 hour. So in some long route like route 1, it will take 1.5 an hour to finish the job. So if you plan below 1 hour, so that means the optimization won't ask you to assign any vehicles to route 1. And the other thing is, let's say if we only look at shorter periods, then there's another case is in some cases we have seen is in the simulation they always ask the motorman to take the meal break after the site in the morning. So this is some ridiculous things because you need to have the break after maybe 2.5 or 3 hours. So that will make sense. But if you look, let's say maximum 2 hours, and you look at all motorman schedule, because this is the multi-objective function which you take care of everyone's schedule, and this will so-called give you the social welfare, maximize the social welfare, and in some cases you sacrifice some individuals' welfare. So that's why we use look ahead 3 hours instead of shorter hours. Yeah.
And maybe for one last question, like. Okay, so thank you very much.
Yes.
That's for the software issue, right? So
Yep. C++.
C++?
Yeah.
Are you running multiple threads or just one thread? For the-
Just one thread. Yeah.
Which means if you scale it out in C++, you can still
Yeah.
maintain ability.
And the other thing is we don't have enough RAM because the task sequence can be easily explored. If you look at let's say we look at 3.5 an hour, it already ran out all the all the RAMs that in the PC already. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, okay.
For your
Thank you.
Thank you very much for.
Yeah, thank you.